Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to the studio. Today I want to take a little bit of time out from recording in the studio and make a video for you about gear acquisition syndrome and the Grateful Dead. Chances are if you've watched my videos before or are watching this video now, you know about GAS, or gear acquisition syndrome. And it's easy to think about it as a new phenomenon. We have better recording gear and better guitar gear than ever before. And gear used to be financially unattainable for many people. Gear is cheaper now than it's ever been. But the Grateful Dead have had a gear addiction going all the way back to their formation, even when they didn't have much money, playing pizza pubs and the acid tests. And they had an interesting way of coming about getting their gear. They had a benefactor who was very into audio and many other things, and we're going to talk about that in this video. How the Grateful Dead got their gear, the type of gear they used, and the interesting story behind the community of the Grateful Dead and how all this came to be. In the 1970s, the Grateful Dead were known for having the most amazing sounding concerts. And the sound at these Dead shows was the Grateful Dead wall of sound, and it was powered by 48 Macintosh MC2300 amplifiers. And if you've ever heard Macintosh amps, you know the sound coming through those little blue meters is pretty damn amazing. They were powering over 600 Electro Voice and JBL speakers. Back there in that Fender Twin, 1968 Twin, I have one JBL D120. And let me tell you, it's a very clean, pristine sound, and it's also very heavy. There was 600 of these speakers that delivered a clean, pristine sound over 600 feet, which was pretty unheard of at the time. And this wall of sound was an invention of a man named Owsley Stanley, and it went all the way back to 1965. Owsley began putting this system together in 1965. Owsley also, probably even more known for fueling the 1960s, was his brand of LSD called Orange Sunshine. In 1965, when Owsley Stanley first began manufacturing acid, it was still legal in the US. And at this time, there was a very tight community of beatniks, bohemians, and hippies in San Francisco, many of whom had been dosed. And one of these people was Ken Kesey, author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He got a group of people together called the Merry Pranksters, and they began a gathering concert type event called the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Tests. And at these acid tests, there was a large punch bowl full of Kool-Aid dosed with LSD. And it was at these acid tests that the Grateful Dead first met Owsley Stanley. And it was quickly a mutually beneficial relationship. Owsley saw in the Grateful Dead an amazing band whom he could help, and he thought they were going to turn on the world, and in many ways they did. And the Grateful Dead saw in Owsley a source of 99.9% pure LSD, and he was buying the Grateful Dead all the gear they needed to get this sound that he envisioned in his head for the Dead. In the mid to late 60s, Owsley was making tons of acid. Orange Sunshine basically became a brand name, and even songs were written about the stuff. Eric Clapton, it said, wrote Sunshine of Your Love in part about Owsley's acid. Jimi Hendrix was on another brand of Owsley acid called Monterey Purple at the Monterey Pop Festival. Owsley made hundreds of thousands of hits just for this concert. It was a bit of a mission for him to give people a psychedelic experience. And he used the profits from this LSD to keep the Grateful Dead in the best gear, guitars, amplifiers, and he started in the mid-60s on the Wall of Sound. It fell into a bit of disrepair in the early 70s when Owsley went to prison, but quickly when he got out is when the Wall of Sound became the Wall of Sound that we know now. If you want to dig more into this story, I really recommend this book. It's called Living with the Dead by Rock Scully. Rock was the Dead's manager from the band's formation all the way until the 80s. There's some insane stories in this book. I really recommend it. There's a story in the book about the band all living together with Owsley in this house in LA. And Owsley has an LSD tabbing machine upstairs so he can make the powdered LSD into pills. And it doesn't take much acid to make the trip, and there's this fine powder all over the house, Rock says. and it's seeping into their pores on top of the other drugs that they're doing. And Owsley has this belief that the body's natural state, or homeostasis, is to eat red meat only. Later on in his life, it becomes raw red meat. He believes this from the 60s up until he dies. But there's all kinds of red meat that Rock has stored in refrigerators in the house that's all he wants to eat, and he wants the band to get on board. So they're tripping constantly, and there's all this red, bloody meat in the house, and it creates some pretty insane scenes in their mind. And I heard about this book from another YouTube channel. Otis Gibbs is another Indiana musician. He's got a great YouTube channel with all kinds of interviews from people like Charlie Starr, who is one of my favorite guitar players. Charlie Starr is a guitar player from Blackberry Smoke. Other Nashville sidemen, he's got some great interviews on there, and just sitting down and watching Otis tell a story is great YouTube viewing. Also, if you like this type of content, if you like the music you've been hearing in the video, it's my new single called Pixel Palm Reader. The artist's name is Thirsty Deer. You can go stream it on all the streaming services. I make a lot of music production content, a lot of audio engineering content. So if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, hit the like button. Tell me about any Grateful Dead experiences you have. Tell me about types of gear you use, guitar pedals, studio gear. I always love to hear that stuff from viewers. Before we talk about Jerry's guitars, I wanted to mention the band's first PA system. Before they ever hooked up with Owsley, Jerry's mom bought the band a pair of Klipsch La Scalas. Now, I have a lot of experience with both Klipsch La Scalas and Klipsch horns, more with the Klipsch horns, but both are great sounding speakers. The Klipsch horns I know are around $15,000 a pair now. Both are considered great hi-fi or concert speakers. The Klipsch horns are the house speakers, or used to be the house speakers in Carnegie Hall for a time. And it's just amazing that this was Jerry's first PA system, and he ended up giving it to the Hells Angels. I thought that was an interesting side note. Now, Jerry's guitars, his custom guitars that everybody probably associates with Jerry, were made by a man named Doug Irwin. And Jerry first hooked up with Doug Irwin when he was playing his Alligator Stratocaster given to him by Graham Nash. He had a lot of work done at Alembic by Rick Turner, who made Fleetwood Mac, Lindsey Buckingham's guitar that everybody knows Lindsey for nowadays. They're a San Francisco company, kind of a collective of builders and designers and luthiers. So Jerry's playing a 57 Strat called Alligator that Graham Nash gave to him, and he takes it into Alembic to have some work done. While he's there, he finds a guitar called Eagle that Doug Irwin built. He falls in love with that guitar and buys it. Short time later, comes back and commissions Doug Irwin to build him another guitar. This is the guitar that became Wolf, sold recently for a few $1 million. Very interestingly, when he was coming to pick up Wolf after Doug Irwin made it for him, he was coming to pick it up, and he told Doug Irwin, I want you to make me another guitar, but this time, no limits on time or price. Use your imagination, go wild, make me something I would love. So it took 6 years, and in that 6 years, Jerry played Wolf, but the whole time Doug Irwin was making the guitar known as Tiger. Tiger is a very heavy guitar. It's pancake sandwich body. Jerry's has said that it has 12 individual sounds in it through use of dip switches and boosts and whatever else is in the guitar. It weighs over 13 pounds, but it's got everything Jerry wants. And Jerry plays Tiger for a very long time until he commissions another guitar because technology has advanced in the 80s. He's using MIDI on his guitars, so he commissions another guitar from Doug Irwin. This is the guitar that became known as Rosebud. And he plays Rosebud basically till the end of the Grateful Dead, or till he passed away. There was one more other guitar. This guitar was called Lightning Bolt. This was made by a guy who made yachts, and he used like a picture of Tiger, I believe, and built another guitar to those specs as he saw them in this picture, did some of his own custom touches, and sent Jerry the guitar. Jerry loved Lightning Bolt, played it, up until the end. I think something at the last show went wrong with the guitar, it malfunctioned or something, and Jerry went back to playing Rosebud for that last show. But these are the custom guitars associated with Jerry and kind of the timeline and how they came to be.